you hit record?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, YouTube.
What's up, guys? Episode 25, big, I wouldn't say big milestone. This is
It is a milestone.
Yeah.
It's a milestone.
Most
25.
people don't make it to 25 is what I've heard on podcast apps or like analytics. So,
Really?
yeah.
I think
episode
people
25.
think it's going to be, I don't want to say easier, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think
like,
people that don't get a response that they want are probably gonna
There you go.
well,
That's a good way to say
it's
it.
not working, but you have to stay. You're building content, so I think that's our goal is to build content.
Yes. To share, to
Mhm.
motivate, inspire, encourage.
Yep.
That's our goal.
Well, yeah, week 2 of how to eat. How to lead when you're not in charge. I don't know what I was gonna say.
Leaders eat last.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Make sure we get the mic.
Make
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
Here we go.
Okay.
And 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? It's Mario for the Made for More Consulting Podcast. Welcome back. We are week 2 of our new book, How to Lead When You're Not in Charge, talking about the 4 behaviors. And again, it's going to be good. This book is not just for people who said they're not a leader, but it's for people, again, that are just working in a culture where maybe you're waiting to get promoted. Maybe you're just now starting a new job. Anyone can learn a lot from this book. So, yeah, episode 25. Adina, welcome back.
I'm glad to be here.
I have written down that it's like 700 degrees here in Texas. So
It is hot.
yeah,
It's hot.
and we're recording earlier, so that's good.
I read a thing on Facebook the other day, and it talked about how if you're moving here from California, you
Don't.
have 1 year to complain about the weather and then acclimate and get over it.
Yeah, did you read that from Tim Kennedy?
Probably.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
wrote
know.
down, it was
Maybe
pretty cool
I
to
might
see.
have.
He said, yeah, it was pretty good. I read that yesterday at this cookout that we were at. So you guys just got back from a little vacation?
We did. It was really nice. We did a little, I'm going to say, camping because it was on like a river, but we stayed in a house that had AC and a bathroom. But it was really interesting because nobody else there had AC in a bathroom, and so
How did y'all luck out with that? Did you have to rent that?
well, of course we rented it. We paid a lot of money to have AC in a bathroom, but it was well worth it.
Oh yeah, especially
Well
with the
worth
weather.
And we have a lot of people in our family, so that's really what it came down to for us. We needed a house that slept 8 people, and the other camping areas didn't really sleep that many, so maybe
That's
it's
cool.
the biggest one.
Well, Tyler's here, Jamie's here. Well, we're missing Etienne. I think she's at a wedding. I don't even know. She's somewhere. I think she's lying to us. But anyways, she's somewhere. She did a really good job with the post this week. And with that being said, we are on episode 25. And I was saying earlier, I heard most people don't make it this far because, yeah, your expectation of a podcast, I guess, changes. But really ours, again, is just to put content out that's going to help people motivate, inspire, and encourage. And so 25 down and
A lot more to go.
Yeah, looking at 50. So this will be our biggest month for the podcast. Thank you guys for your support, but we got to keep going. So week 2 of how to lead when you're not in charge.
Let's go.
Yeah. So before we go, if they're listening for the first time,
Well, if you're listening for the first time, you should go back and listen to episode 1 because that tells you what we're all about. But I'm going to say that after you listen to this episode, then go back and listen to 24, last week's, where we started.
yeah, that's right. And I have a couple stories from this week about our podcast that you guys don't want to miss out on. Me talking about a book I've been missing for years that I finally found.
Probably the one that you have accused me of multiple times of taking.
Yeah, but apparently there's a story. I'll have to tell you what happened because I found out where it's at.
Y'all wait and we'll let Mario apologize to me on air as well.
Yeah, so let's get going. Last week was about influence, identity, and ambition. And this week I talked to a few people about that podcast last week, and they said identity is probably their biggest, whether their boss kind of gave them the identity of not being good enough or whatnot, they've struggled with identity and pretty much just taking ownership of it. And I talked to multiple people about that. So
It was a good chapter.
yeah, it was. So chapter 4, 5, 6, and 7. Here we go. These are called the 4 behaviors. And so how to lead when you're not in charge. I think the one word I would describe about this is interesting. It's just ownership. We talked about extreme ownership, but this chapter is called "Lead Yourself," and it's a tough chapter. It's I put, I feel as if this chapter would be good for anyone who's just starting a new job, a first job, or is about to leave a job, because he says this. I'll read this from the book. He says, "Here's the truth you need to know," and man, listen in here. Please listen to this, because this is talking to me as well. Here's the truth you need to know. Your boss is not in charge of you. You are in charge of you. Then he goes on to say, you are in charge of you. You're in charge of your emotions, your thoughts, your reactions, and your decisions. It's the law of personal responsibility, because everyone is responsible for leading something, even if that something is you. And I thought, what a statement. What a freaking statement, because some people are going to get upset, or maybe not upset. Maybe they pause and go, no, you don't know my boss. No, but here's the thing. Is if you're going to grow, you got to learn to lead yourself.
When I like that he kind of goes through, and that's exactly what he says. He's like, get a game plan for leading yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't lead yourself, you also can't lead anybody else.
Yeah. And I think this is where most people get stuck. I know you and I have talked about this a ton, but I believe it's because the expectation that they have of their boss. Their boss hires them. It's like a honeymoon season and everybody's happy, but then maybe their boss doesn't push them, or they don't meet the expectations that were unsaid. Like, as an employee, I have all these expectations of my boss, and they don't really meet them, and they're never said. So guess what? They're unmet. Then you start putting things in the gap between your boss and, man, he doesn't care, she doesn't care, she's not growing me, he's not growing me. And here's the reality is you have to be in control of your growth at all times. Every season of life at your job, if your boss kind of doesn't do what you think they should, guess what? Ownership says that you can. So, yeah.
Well, and we have always talked about this, that you are in charge of your own growth,
Yep.
and that it is not your boss's responsibility to grow you, to pour into you. It's not your mentor, which we've talked a lot about mentorship. Is that if you want a mentor, it's your job to go out and ask someone to mentor you. It's your job to set up those appointments and those get-togethers, and to ask your mentor the questions. But so many times we want it to be the opposite. We want somebody to come to us and say, hey, let me mentor you.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen, because then you're not invested in it.
So I think what I want people to know about Made for More, and the reason that I kind of laugh at that, is because we exist for that reason, is to go, I'm empowering you to find the freedom that you have to grow yourself, not to rely on your boss or mentor. Yes, we'll walk with you, but we're not going to do the work.
Which is why we don't read the whole book. I mean, why we'll highlight it. Even when we did Leaders Eat Last, we just highlight different parts of it. I'm not going to read the book to you, but I'll point out some things and tell you what I think about them. And then you can take ownership, and you can go and you can read it, and then you can, or even our action plans, our action steps that we talk about at the end, that's for you.
Yeah, because at the end of life, man, you cannot come back and say, hey, my boss never gave me that promotion. Well, you could have left. You could have done this or that. She didn't do this or that for me. Hey, you had the freedom to choose. I think the one I laugh about, Adina, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but this is a totally different organization. But the one thing that we hear in that organization is when people are leaving, it's just what he said, that people go, hey, we didn't go deep enough. Like, I wish we would go deeper. Well, let me tell you something, bro, or chick.
Bro.
Seriously, come on. Like, if you're going to come to me and say that we don't go deep enough, guess what? You have access to the freaking books that I study with. You have access to Audible. You have access. I'm doing something. You can read
the Bible just like I can.
Exactly. So go deeper by yourself. Seriously, so you can lead other people.
That's a whole topic that we could talk about in church world, about people being upset. But
anyways, there's a cool quote from Tom Watson, the former IBM CEO. He says, nothing so conclusively proves a man's ability to lead others as what he does on a day-to-day basis to lead himself.
I feel like we could just walk away right there.
I know.
Mic drop.
To me, that challenges me like crazy, because I know that even getting ready for this podcast, I was behind, and I go, I can't stay in this routine. I got to plan better, but I got to lead myself. So, again, I know there's a lot of information. We're not going to cover everything, but on Lead Yourself, Adina, he talks about, I believe, 3 things you can do. Number 1, model followership.
Yes.
Followership.
What
What
I
do you
like,
think about that?
I do. I like that he kind of just said, be a good follower. Say good things about your boss. Don't talk bad about your boss. Like, follow the way that you would want someone to follow you. And that you can still challenge and you can still, do those things tactfully, but be a good follower.
Yeah, and at the end of the chapter, he talks about how to leave.
Yes, and I loved that chapter.
I didn't put that on there.
I loved that because we can talk about that in a minute, but I love that he kind of said, you have to wipe it all away, make sure that you're leaving for the right reasons. And here are some, I think it was like 9 reasons.
9 reasons.
And I thought they were really good.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll have time for that. So we'll go. So number 1, if you're going to practically look at how to grow yourself, is model followership. Number 2, monitor your heart and behavior. He talked about 3 questions that I put, that blew my mind that I didn't even think about. Number 1, he said, if you're going to monitor your heart and your behavior, and he said to ask people this. This is cool. What did I do over the past few years that inspires you? What did I do that frustrated you? And what do I not know about myself that has become a blind spot? So if you are a leader and you go ask that to people, man, that's going to be cool because you get to learn what frustrates people about the way you lead. And then, hey, maybe there's some blind spots right here. But I think it's a pretty cool thing because you get to find out what inspires people and then, where maybe you're lacking the leadership.
Yeah. Well, and then he kind of goes in and talking about making a plan. And I think that is where, you leading yourself really comes into play is you have to have a plan.
Yep.
Because it's not going to happen by accident.
Yeah, and then so make a plan. He says here's 3 things. Number 1, know where you are currently. Most of the big employment decisions in your career will happen when you're not in the room, is what he says, because people are talking about you. People are saying, hey, this person's here. Should we motivate? Should we elevate them? Should we give them? Should we hire them to go or promote them? So what he's saying is, if you don't know where you are currently, then you can't go ask for the next step in your career. So know where you are currently. Like, okay, here's where I'm at. I know that there's room for improvement, and here's the next step of where I want to go. And he's talking about, if you don't have something to shoot for, then you're going to hit it every time. So have a target. Know where you're at, though, first. So practically know where you're at. The second one was have a vision.
But you have to know where you want to go.
Yep.
I mean, you have to know what you want and where you want to go.
And I put that you're really good at this because you always ask people, hey, if money wasn't an issue.
Yes.
Right?
What would you do?
Yeah.
Yes. What are you passionate about?
That's
what if
exactly
money
what he
wasn't an
says.
issue?
What bothers
yes,
you?
What gives you life? I didn't even read the whole question, but for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that more often than not, the answer that I hear from people is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And what that tells me is they haven't given themselves space to dream and to really figure out who they are. But it also, after reading this book, what it tells me is that they don't know their identity.
Yeah.
That they've let everyone else tell them their identity, and they don't know.
Yeah, and later on he talks about planning time for yourself, because if you don't, then you lose track. You're just doing other things for other people rather than allowing your time to tell you, or you allow your
calendar. You dictate your calendar.
Yeah, so basically, if you're going to make a plan to grow, you need to know where you are. You need to have a vision for where you want to go, which is, ask yourself, if money wasn't an issue, what passion do you have? What gives you life, makes you come alive? And then the third thing he said to ask yourself in making a plan is develop the discipline and accountability to do what it takes to stay on track. And for me, honestly, this is where I need to practice this week. Like me personally, is discipline equals freedom here. If you want the freedom to grow and the opportunity, you have to take the discipline to work for it. And today alone, so I was out walking. It was probably 6:45, and I knew that all these ideas were coming to mind. And I knew I was going to come home, it was going to be sweaty or whatever, but I got in front of the computer, start writing this out, but having ideas for the next few things. And I go, okay, I know that early in the morning is good for me to get alone and start typing. So now the discipline for me is to go, I have to do this every day. Get up earlier, you have more time. And so for me, it's developed a discipline of waking up early and making sure I do that, because I want the freedom to go, everything's done. So it was a kick in the gut for me, develop the discipline and accountability to do what it takes to stay on track. So I said, hey, Adina, what are one of these that you, maybe one of the things that you need to work on?
Oh, okay, that's good. Well, I'm a big planner. Like,
Okay.
I feel like that is one of the things I and do really well is I have an action plan for myself, and you know, whether it's books I'm gonna read or if it's goals I'm setting, or
Mhm.
you know, one of the things I started doing because of a lot of our conversations is like a 4 helpful list on the personal, you know,
Yeah.
for my personal life, and that has been really helpful. But definitely, I would say is monitor like my heart and my behavior, because
Yeah.
it's really easy for me to slip into like the idea of probably like tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of blind spots of mine that kind of go on, and I get really focused on
Yeah.
like one thing, or kind of like laser focused on probably things that I should not be. So
Okay.
I need to work on keeping like a bigger vision for some things, you know, because like that, like I can get so focused on I need to go for a walk every morning so I can think,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just going for a walk, and then I'm
And
not
you're not
thinking because I'm
thinking.
trying to think.
Yeah.
But instead of having it be a little more broad about there are other ways that I can think
Yeah.
and dream,
Yeah.
and
And it's different for everybody,
it's
right?
different for everybody.
I was telling Jamie yesterday, Jocko has 2 days where he reads for 10 hours. Reading for 10 hours a day.
That sounds like a dream come
I thought it was
true. I don't know
10
if I could
chapters.
read 10 hours.
He said he was frustrated at the end of those days, and then he learned that I need to wake up at 3:45, get his workout in.
I don't know if my attention span, if I can.
10 hours. But he's doing how many podcasts? I mean, wow. And he just says you got to keep growing. So I'm not going to read 10 hours a day. Well, at the end of this chapter, Adina, I didn't write any notes, but it said time to leave. And so he talks about there's a time to leave as an employee at some point. And he says, here's a few things: drop the expectations, go all in, learn what you need to learn, and then that's basically it. So drop the expectations that you have of your boss, and let's just wipe everything clean and go, okay, why am I feeling this way? Go all in, as in, hey, maybe it's on your side and not your boss's side. Maybe you're the one that's not fully committed. And then the last one where you were talking about, he said, learn what you need to learn. And then he has these questions if you want to read them.
That is what I love. On the last, I'll just pick a couple of them.
Yeah.
But I love that these are like clear cut questions. And he says, he said it's not really crystal clear, but if more than a few of these signs are present, it might be time to go. If you dread going to work and you are miserable every day, that's an issue. Yes. If you lack passion, I think that was one of them. And then also down a little bit, if you're experiencing emotional stress due to your boss.
It's time to go.
But this is the one for me, is like, if those around you agree that a new opportunity is too good to pass up.
Time to go.
It's time
that's
to
good.
go.
Those are good things. And again, I didn't cover these just because, man, because of time. But you guys pick this book up, please. This second section of this book is awesome.
When I think back to our 2 Q&As that we've done, and in both of those, that has been some form of a question: is how do you know when it's time to leave?
Yeah.
You know, and so I know that we have some listeners out there that might kind of be struggling with that.
Mm-hmm.
This section is really good to read, because there's not many books that really say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is how you know it's time to go.
You and I both worked with somebody who worked in an organization for years, and she left.
Mm-hmm.
And she took a whole year to figure out if she was ready to go. And I can't remember what book she read.
It's Leading Well, I think.
Leading Well or something. I don't even know about it.
Something like that.
But she, man, I respected her, and it was hard to see her go because she was like the backbone of a lot of what we did. But she had to leave, and now she's
time for her to go.
doing what she needs to be doing. And man, yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah,
it was a tough one.
So chapter 4 was all about, again, leading yourself, right?
Yes.
So chapter 5, this probably comes natural to me. I think it does.
Okay, I
People
just
usually
got
make
a
fun
look
of me.
on my face about that.
Why?
I don't know. I just did. I'm like,
Because people will tell me that, hey, why do you always, what is it called when people say that I always see the positive side of things?
You see the positive side of things?
I don't know what it's called. Choose positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you disagree? I think I'm in a negative mood sometimes when you're around me.
Sometimes.
Probably around 3 or 4 o'clock because I'm hungry. So choose positivity.
You're very positive.
So in this chapter, he talks a lot about perspective again. So seeing different sides of maybe a problem or leadership, and he's saying that you have to choose between positive or negative. So somewhere again, he says this somewhere in the chapter, and I think this sums it up really well. But we're not going to sum it up. I just wanted to start with this. It said this in Choose Positivity. He said, trust-fueled, hope-filled, forward-thinking people can push through anything that gets in the way because their eyes are fixed on more than what's directly in front of them. And it is a choice, one you can make every day. The positivity is not just a personal trait. I love this. This positivity is not just a personal trait. Positivity is a character trait. Personality refers to an inherent bent, much of which is predetermined. But character is developed over time. So he's saying positivity is built in your character, and that's what's developed. So you got to learn to be positive, but you got to choose to want to learn that. So
I will say that when you say it, that you're fixed on not what's like more than what is directly in front of you.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
That when something's not going right, you can take a breath and you can see like the next.
Yeah.
The next
There's
layer.
strategic sides and tactical sides,
Yes.
and I'm going, don't just look at the thing right in front of you, because you start making decisions you don't need to make. You start panicking, when in the end, just look at the big picture and go, okay, I got to stay positive, because this is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yes.
And I always say it this way: dictate the situation, or what the situation is going to dictate you. Meaning, again, take a step back, take a breather, and understand that you're going to choose to be positive because there's a bigger plan in place. So yeah, and then he says something about when you're leading people, if your people can't see their role in the bigger picture. So if I'm on your team and I don't understand the vision, I don't understand my role, but I keep doing it and how it plays into that vision, over long term, it's difficult for those people to stay positive, because they're not able to see out to like further out, right? They just see what's in front of them. And so they're the first people to get negative, and then they start talking and they go, why are we doing this? I don't understand this. And if the boss is that way or the leader's that way, everybody's looking down in front of them instead of out, and there's no vision. So he's talking about when you choose to be positive, you have to have a vision out front that you continue to shoot for. So I just thought, if we were to ask people right now, in the job you're in the situation you're in, do you see the bigger picture right now? And if not, you need to either try to ask for that or try to figure out what the vision is of where you're at. Because if not, you're going to get really burnt out pretty quick, and you're probably going to get bored, and you're probably going to start complaining because you don't understand where you fit in on your team, because you don't understand the vision.
But I think to stay positive, you have to know the why behind your role. I have to know, how am I making a difference? What is my why of being on this team and making a difference?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to keep you able to see the big picture, see the big vision.
Yeah. So, choosing to be positive, and he says a few things. Number one, how do we choose positivity? Number one, energy and attitude. You want to read that?
Leaders who bring a trust-fueled, hope-fueled, forward-thinking attitude every day can change any team dynamic. And you don't have to be the CEO. You might be an invisible intern with no authority, or a mid-level manager who feels stuck. But if you choose to bring the attitude of a 100-watt bulb, you'll start seeing things light up.
That's awesome. Because again, if you have energy and attitude, and I think I start the day out with energy and attitude, but then after lunch, or if I don't eat, that's that 100-watt bulb is, I don't even know.
It starts to dimmer.
Yes.
So you get a Snickers.
Yes. I really do remember being upset, and I remember the first question you would ask is, hey, have you eaten?
Has it time for you to eat?
I'm like, man, it's not
Son of
bad.
a.
Yeah. And I did. I remember being so, not convicted, I don't even know, challenged. There you go, challenged by when I heard Jocko and Leif and Echo talking about hangry is a choice. There's no such thing as being hangry. You're just angry because you want to be angry. Get over it. Because you're hungry. You should have chose to eat. And
your behavior is always a choice.
Yeah, there you go. So if you're going to choose to be positive, you have to look at your energy and your attitude that you're bringing to the table for your team. And I love the whole thing about if you're a 100-watt bulb, then you're going to start seeing things light up. Just continue to do it. Number 2, he says humility towards those in authority.
You could get mad or you could get busy getting better. You get to choose.
What the heck? That's a sweet
I don't
quote.
like that.
That's awesome. Seriously, you can get upset, or get busy. Which is it going to be? You have to choose.
I like it.
Yeah, humility is going to teach you. So choose positivity by your energy and attitude, humility, and then the last one says unity with your associates. And I think we cover this pretty well in our other podcasts, towards the beginning of our podcast on Leaders Eat Last, which it's just, you're choosing we over me. It's not about you, it's about the team. So when you're positive, don't do it just for you, do it for the team. Like, man, we got to move forward as a team. So yeah, and I said, what view you're looking through will determine whether you see negative or positive. And so I don't think people I think people just need to see that you're not always going to be positive. There's going to be days that you're stuck in a rut, but remember that your influence is carrying the team. It has an effect on the team. So yeah.
And when you're feeling stuck in a rut, what he talks about is being able to take that step back and see the world or see your situation a little bit differently. Because I think we get so focused on, like, the day-to-day stuff that you forget that what you're doing is making a difference.
Yep. Yeah. And so, chapter 4 is lead yourself. Chapter 5, choose positivity. And before we go into chapter 6, it's like, is it Saturday Night Live that has Debbie Downer? Every time she talks, this song comes on and they show her face. And no one wants to, I'm not saying this in a bad way, no one wants to be that. But when you have that person on the team and you're trying to move forward as a team, it's hard to even throw out an idea, because you're going to go, who's going to carry her or him? Who's going to be the one that lets them know, because we're going to have to carry them. You got to be everybody. I mean, again, not everybody has to be positive, but you have to be ready to practice your positivity and energy and bring it to the team, because you don't want to be carried. I don't think so.
And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer.
Yeah, I don't want to be the weakest link either. So, chapter 6. We're going through these pretty quicker than I thought. Chapter 6 is think critically. Is that the way you say it?
Yes.
Think critically. This chapter takes who we are when we're positive. It reminds us that we also got to think the growth and think critically, like balance it out. Here's a good statement when it comes to talking about thinking critically. He says this: the greatest benefit you can bring your team is a positive energy, right? Yes, but being a critical thinker is substantial. It's a value add. It involves questioning assumptions, noticing abnormalities, and connecting the dots between feelings and actions. So what he's trying to say is you still got to have that critical eye when you go into something to make it the best that it can. You got to be positive. You got to say it. There has to be a balance. That not everything is, he talks about it in here, that whole Lego song, everything is awesome. Not everything is awesome all the time. There's improvements we got to make, but it's how you are critical with your team that's going to make or break your team. Because you can come in and say, hey, what the heck? Did you guys not sweep last night? What part of that don't you understand? Or you can come in and go, hey, there's a checklist that we've made, guys. Everyone's responsible for this checklist. Who missed out last night? Because here's what's happening. Now we're having to use time in the morning rather than last night, and now we're having to rework the system because you guys didn't do it. So where's the misunderstanding?
I thought this was interesting. He says one of the most common frustrations of not being in charge is being told no. Boy, that speaks to me. No one likes being told no, but even worse than being told no is given a task to work on and receiving little or no direction. Then, after you spend energy, effort, and time on a project, you were told, that's not exactly what we're looking for. What else you got?
Yeah, I think I'm laughing because when I read that, I thought of you, because I know you and I've had conversations where you just said, hey, you know what? I see where I want to go, and it's difficult when you're working with a team that someone's going, hey, I need you to do this. Okay, I'm going to do this, but here's the way I think it should go.
You can tell me what to do or how to do it, but you can't tell me both.
There you go.
That's just the Ramsey motto. You can tell me what to do or how to do it, but you can't tell me both.
Yeah.
So if you tell me what to do, I get to do it my way.
Yeah.
Or you can tell me how to do it, and I will do it your way.
There you go. And he has a really good example in here, NFL quarterbacks that I've never thought of. So you have all these elite schools. I know he mentions Texas, LSU, Florida, all these big schools. And then he says, why are NFL quarterbacks from underperforming schools the ones that are driving the NFL right now? He brings it, he talks about Ben Roethlisberger. He talks about all these little guys these guys that came from little schools. And he said this: one, they didn't have the resources that these big schools had. Number two, they had to overcome adversity because they don't have what those other guys had. And number three, when you're practicing adversity over and over and over again, you're having to think critically how you're going to make this team work. So then what that quarterback gets when he goes to the NFL, he's going, hey, I've already done this. I was in college and I didn't have all the resources the other guys had. And that's why they perform better, because they've been constantly critically thinking of everything that they have to do, how to improve every little situation that they're in, and they perform better. So I think critical thinking is vital. I think you got to be very careful how you do it as a leader.
Well, I like this part. He says, leaders who are critical thinkers don't just criticize and whine. They learn. They start by questioning things. Why do we do it this way? Is there a better way? What would happen if? And he goes on. And I thought that was a really good place to start thinking about that. It's okay to question things.
Yeah.
That is, because he also talks about in here, is that it's a skill that you can learn how to be a critical thinker.
Totally.
And so that's the first step. If you're not naturally a critical thinker, start questioning things. Don't just accept the way that you're doing it as the way it should be done. Ask the questions.
You're right. And I think on that point, this is where the positive side of my brain thinks, or the weird side of my brain thinks, going, if you're the leader and you're a critical thinker, awesome, but it's tact on how you come approach me about being critical, right? But then if you're someone who doesn't know how to be critical and you're practicing it, your tact also in question.
Just
you can't just go in there and go, what the heck, why did we do that? No, just say, hey,
why?
What kind of choice how did we get to this conclusion? Because I've never seen it done that way. That's better than just going, why the heck would you do that?
Right. Well, or maybe just, hey, I noticed that we do this. Can you tell me how you guys came to that decision? Yep. And you may believe in it. Like, it could be a really good idea. You can still ask the questions about it. I also like that it says critical thinkers notice things, and that critical thinkers tend to be more observant, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the reasons that you notice things that other people don't notice.
One thing I don't think he covered in here that I put the connection with when I thought of what you read earlier was critical thinkers have the what's it called? They have the capability of being micromanagers. What do you call that? The reputation of being micromanagers, because they know how they want it done, or they can influence people to get it done. But sometimes if you're a critical thinker, sometimes, and you, like you said earlier, you can tell me how you want it done.
Or tell me what to do or how to do it.
Yeah. So if I tell you what to do and I trust you, great. But if I tell you how and you still don't get it done, I become that micromanager where you go, hey, do you want to do this, or do you want me to do it? Because you're telling me that what I did was wrong. Why don't you just tell me this from the very beginning?
But also as a leader, I think, like, in some situations as a leader, what I'm asking you to do is maybe important. Or maybe the process is more important. So maybe if we're going to follow this process, that may be what's important. So I'm going to tell you step by step by step.
So as a leader, make sure you're telling
make sure that you're
which
telling
is more important.
Which is more important, and what is it that you really want somebody to follow? I like to. It also talks about how critical thinkers are also able to connect things, and I think that is something that's really important, and that's a skill that helps your whole organization come together.
Yeah, and so he says that he talks about 4 subtle ways or subtle shifts that we must make to learn to become. So if you're not a critical thinker, these are awesome. Number 1, stop thinking as an employee and start thinking as an owner.
Okay, that blew my mind.
Really? I knew this. I just hate it.
Okay, I feel like I'm being vulnerable here. I've never heard that before. Don't say what to me like that. You're looking at me like I have said that to you.
Read the next line on my notes. It says, it's the trash example. If there's trash on the floor and you and I walk past it, someone else is going to pick it up. I understand that.
No, I mean, I get the I'm going to pick the trash up. I get that.
Yes.
I get that,
But act as if
like
you own it.
having like the ownership over it, and that was kind of, I was like, okay, that's really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I really don't know if I want to invest that much of myself into something that's not mine.
Yeah, he talks about an example with one of my mentors to college. Louis Giglio told him, "Hey, can you host Passion?" And Passion's has over 150,000 college students. And he said, "Well, hey, how do you want me to open this up?" He said, "I want you to open this up as if this was your show." And then he said, "Hey, well, how do you want me to do this?" "Well, I want you to own it as if you're selling this and it's your product." And he said, "Well, cool, I got it. I'm like I'm owning it." And so yeah. Stop thinking as an employee, start thinking as an owner. Another way you can become a better critical thinker is stop stacking your meetings. And this is huge for me.
Boy, I love
And
this.
start scheduling thinking meetings. And this is what we were talking about earlier. You need to start running your calendar instead of your calendar running you, and put some time in there for you to think.
Well, I thought about this when you were talking about how when you were walking.
Yeah.
Because that's what he says. Uninterrupted time is when the ideas begin to flow.
A doctor, they said it was scientifically proven.
Yes.
In the shower, in the walks, in certain things, because it's uninterrupted. There's no one around.
Yes.
And your mind thinks. And then it's, again, speaking about my mentor Louis Giglio, he says 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he gets in his office, leaves his cell phone, computer, everything outside, and just sits down at a table with a pen and pad for 30 minutes, 3 times a week. So that's what, 30, 60, 90 minutes a week. So can you imagine if you did that every day?
That's amazing.
With nothing, no distraction, leave your phone out of the room.
It's not my phone or my computer, it's people that don't leave me alone.
Yeah.
But
so again,
that's just an excuse.
When he says stacking your meetings, he's saying going from meeting with no break, right?
Because he talks about, like, at the end of the day, you've gone through all these meetings, but you haven't had one new idea or done anything but like react to like situations and circumstances.
Yeah. So if you're a leader and maybe your day involves meetings, man, have some time in between meetings, because he nailed it. Like, you and I can be in a meeting and then we're involved in the next one. My mind's stuck on what we just came from, and someone else is going, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I'm like, I have no idea.
I'm still processing what we talked about an hour ago.
So again, stop stacking and start scheduling thinking time. 2 more. Stop being critical and start thinking critically. And that's what you were talking about. As a leader, you can on leadership, it's either influence or manipulation. And I think with critical thinking, it's what he said. He says people who are critical want to lose. They're motivated to tear something down. They're bringing problems and not solutions. People who are critical thinkers want to win. They're motivated to bring something out of
I love that, because I am definitely a critical thinker, and I do think sometimes it can be seen as something negative, but my motivation behind it is always to make things better, whether it's to make you better or make the organization better. I want everything to be better.
And I think people can smell that a mile away to go, "Hey, this is for you, or is this for me? Or is this for us, or is it just for you?" And the last one is to stop giving others a grade and start lending a hand. Did you ever play teacher? Like, you just wanted to grade people?
Of course I played teacher.
I didn't like being a teacher, but I liked when we had to grade papers. Like when they'd say, "Hey, all right, take your paper, pass it down, the back, bring it to the front," and I knew that I sucked it up. I hated hearing the pen mark, because I could get it down where it was a check mark or an X, but I loved making an X on mine, or on the paper I was grading. But if I could hear my paper and then you look around and go, "Okay, who has my paper?" And just seeing the red mark.
So want your friend to get your paper and let one or two
Don't be
slide.
that. Be the person that corrects your friend's paper and gives them a passing grade.
That's right.
Just kidding. Don't do that. Anyway, stop giving others grades and start lending a hand. And that's chapter 6. So far, he said, grow. Chapter 5 was lead yourself, choose positivity, think critically, and the last chapter is this: reject passivity. Is that a word? Passivity or passivity?
I think it can be pronounced either way.
It's passivity, not passivity. What the freak was I talking about?
Being passive. Don't be passive.
But he doesn't.
Say it in our language.
But what's funny is him saying this. I thought it was going to be about not being a passive person. It wasn't that. It's about you missing the initiative to grow when there's not anything to do. And so I believe the key word is initiative. Man, I remember this is one of the key words. So I had 2 words when I hired people at my former job, was integrity and initiative. And I had college students that didn't know what initiative was when they would try to define it. I had college students that didn't know what integrity was, but then I had high schoolers that knew what that was, and you could tell the differences. When they took initiative, it means I didn't have to tell them what to do. They knew the vision, the goal, where we were going, and they did something about it, even if it was cleaning the restroom or sweeping the floor. But I believe this is learned. I think you can teach this to people, and I think it will help people, is the word initiative. And you have to reject being passive, and you have to take initiative. He talks about some great ways to go against being passive. And listen to this quote. He says this. He said, I decided to stop playing defense and start playing offense. And he's talking about his life. Like, stop playing defense, play offense. He said, every person is either on one side or the other. There are those who are deciding what kind of person they want to be, and those who are simply responding to what life is handing them. And again, it's what Jocko has taught me, and it's, you're going to either dictate life or it's going to dictate you, and I do not want to be the one that it dictates. I would rather choose to dictate life. So, bless you.
Thank you.
Don't be passive. And then he uses CPR.
Choosing, planning, responding.
So if you want to fight against
being passive,
he says CPR, choosing. He says you simply need to choose something, anything that you will pick up and own. So if there's people not doing something, pick something up and go, hey, I'm gonna do something about this on my where I work. No one's doing it, it's hurting our team. I'm gonna freaking pick it up and run with it. Know that you can make a difference. Look around, what's going on, how can I make a difference? Find something that no one else wants to do and own it. And you have better insight than the owner or the manager because you're so close to it. So pick it up and do it, run with it. And it's take initiative. So choosing, you got anything on choosing?
Well, when you're reading that, I thought it sounds so easy when you're reading it, but to me that's one of the hardest things, because I will pick up a lot of stuff because it really frustrates me when you're sitting around a table and everybody's like, who's gonna do this? And everybody's just quiet, like, dude, I'll do it, whatever. But I think what I liked about that is when you said you have to own it and you have to make it good. And if you are gonna choose to do something, if you're feeling that passive, that I'm not really doing anything, I'm not invested in anything, invest in something. Find something and invest in it. And I think, of course, if it's at your job, that's great. But also, what if it's not? Find something in your life and choose to own it and invest in it and make a difference.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the light. If you choose to start doing something, people are going to see it and they're going to go, hey, I'll jump on board.
Yes.
And you know what? That's the other thing, is it's the same thing with negativity. If you're the person that's not taking initiative and you're just standing around and other people are working, that is one thing that I've heard every place that we've helped, every place that we've worked.
That will kill a team.
People are going to go, why is she not working? Why is he not working? Why is he on his phone? Why is she on her phone? Why are they late? And again, it's that whole thing. It's not what you teach or preach, it's what you tolerate.
Yes.
As a leader, you got to make sure that people are pulling their weight and taking initiative.
The next one is planning.
This is the one that I've already chosen that I'm going to work on this week. Instead of reacting to your calendar, create margin to get out front. So it's going to take a little bit of time. You got to look at your calendar, plan out, think day to day. Remember, it takes planning. And I love that he said this. He said, remember, it takes planning to come up with a plan. So if you're going to have a plan for your life, guess what? You got to learn to plan.
Yes.
And planning takes time, thought, and mental space, meaning those 30-minute increments. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I think if I can, and here's where discipline equals freedom comes in. If I want to have a freedom in my day or my calendar, I need to be disciplined to wake up early. So for me, I've already told myself I have to wake up earlier and go do what I need to do as far as walk or run, come back, and just start doing this early in the morning, because it's frustrating when I know that I'm doing things last minute, but that's on me, it's not anyone else. So planning, choosing, planning, and so CPR, choosing, planning, and responding. Don't let waiting turn into
being passive.
Yeah. He says you will never passively find what you do not actively pursue. You will never passively find what you do not actively pursue. So if you're not actively pursuing something, guess what? You're never going to find what you're looking for. You got to be moving. So, I feel like, again, this chapter was just a lot to take in. There's a lot to learn. I want people to pick up the book because there's so much that we skipped over just because of time. But man, there's so much good in this book. And I know that he looked at our Instagram post last week because I said it was going to be a podcast 24, and I don't know if he even listened to it, but Clay Scroggins.
Well, and I think, wasn't that just the one that we were like, we could have totally written this book?
Yeah, you said we could have totally. Well, we both agreed on it. You're like, we could have totally written this book, and I was like, oh great.
Well, I just think we could have written it because we were identifying with it so much.
But like 5 minutes later, you said, man, he has so much good things to say. So
he does. He really does. I think one thing I like about this book is I feel like he does a really good job of saying and identifying thoughts and feelings that people have that you just think that's just the way that it is. Like being passive. You know, I think so many people, whether it's called being complacent, you're just kind of sitting there, you're just going through the motions, you know, doing your day-to-day stuff, and you're not really doing anything.
Yeah, you're
There's
right.
no initiative, and that's, I think people get stuck there, and I don't think we label that very often.
Yeah, and the good thing about this book, the reason I'm telling you to get it is because there's so many practical steps that he gives you in these last 4 chapters that we couldn't go over every single one.
And lots of questions to ask yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of questions to ask yourself.
And so I said, you know, I don't have all these action steps, 2 of them that we can break down, but the first one is, what are you currently doing to lead yourself? So just like, what are you doing? And honestly answer this right now. What are you doing to lead yourself? Are you waiting for someone else to give you permission? And I put growth is on us, and it's not on anyone else. And I put, okay, if we're going to lead ourselves, what are you learning, and are you tracking it? And if you need help, I mean, think through podcasts, books, read a book, listen to a book, write, walk.
Set some goals.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's part of like the planning part is you have to plan your growth, and you have to know where you want to go.
Yeah.
And what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, because if you say, I want to read a book, well, then I'm going to ask you, when are you going to read the book? Well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Well, what are you going to do with it? You can read a lot of great books, but if you read this book and you don't take any steps after that, it's not really going to do you any good.
Yeah. So what are you currently doing to lead yourself is the first step, action step. Second one is, what are you going to do this week to move from defense to offense? So we need to get better at creating space for ourselves to think, process, and plan.
Yes.
So what are you going to do this week to go from defense to offense, to tell your calendar what to do instead of your calendar telling you what to do? And when are you going to start doing this? And I put this is you can ask me next week, you can write it down. I'm going to start doing this in the mornings after my workout. And I have to create space to think because I just want to see what it does for me I just want to see what it does for me and for my mind. I'll be teaching the next 4 weeks at Rock Point, and what's funny is I'm teaching on taking ownership of your time tomorrow or on Sunday, and it has a lot to do about taking time for yourself. And then I'm going to be teaching about take ownership of your growth, your influence, and where you're at. So anyways, 2 things: what are you currently doing to lead yourself, and what are you going to do this week to move from defense to offense?
It's good stuff.
Great book so far. Next week we'll wrap it up with section 3. Make sure you buy the book by Clay Scroggins.
Tell us our story.
Okay, so which story first?
I don't care. Just pick one.
Okay, so the first one is about the book that I freaking have been telling you. What did you do with my book?
For like 5 years now.
Yeah. So yesterday I got up early, did my things. Everybody else was, still asleep. It was early. I decided to just drive, and I had a message from one of our former coworkers, and she just said, "Hey, I got back on the podcast," and she said, "I just want you to know I can't just listen to the current one." She's like me, and that's why I want to ask you, how do you listen to podcasts? Like Jocko has 315. I got to go from 1 to 315. I'm not going to jump. She can't either. No,
I'm a jumper.
She is not. So you guys tell us, are you jumpers or do you have to listen in order? So she tells me I'm listening in order. And I remember I called her out because I said, we have a certain redhead that works with us, and she tends to show her feelings on her face all the time. And she said, hey, and it was at a podcast that I said, hey, if we mention your name, tell us and we'll buy you slap. Well, Marco pulled me and she said, hey, you didn't say my name, but I knew you were talking about me and you owe me slap. I said, come on, you live, 4 hours away, whatever.
Come see us
And I'll take you. And then she said, hey, quick side note. And I was like, what's up? She said, I didn't know that you love to write in your books. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, well, there was this book that you gave me when I first moved there, and it was called Leaving on Empty. And she said, you wrote this whole thing about where you were in life. And she said, every time I saw it in my trunk, trying to figure out who gave me that freaking book. And she said, I don't even know who I gave it to. I just remember taking it out of my trunk and giving it to someone, telling them they had to read it. And now I don't know where that book's at. So, Leaning on Empty. Jaden, oh shoot, I just dropped her. Jaden Bozeman, not Farnsworth. She had my book the whole time. So, Jaden, we love you. Hope you come visit, but you owe me a book.
You owe her slab.
Yeah.
There you
Interesting. Yeah. So, anyways, some good feedback from her as far as listening to the podcast, catching up. And there's a second story, man. I wish I would have recorded this Zoom call. So, this is so crazy. How we have people that listen all over the United States should not be a surprise to us, but we do, because we can see where people listen from. And just recently we had a couple listen to us from Oregon, and they just said, hey, do you happen to have any time just to talk? And typically my answer is no, because we're busy. In my other world, I'm usually going no, because I'm so focused on getting things done. And on this Made for More, I know that sounds bad, but for Made for More, I'm just learning. And so I said, heck yeah, I'll talk to you guys. I just want to, and there's no agenda. We just want to talk. So we get on Zoom at 7. So at 8:30, I left Tyler downstairs, my wife with the girls. At 8:30, I think, an hour and a half later, almost 2 hours later, I was like, these are people just like me. And the things I wish we would have recorded it, because what they were saying, they could recall stuff in the podcast. And I was like, people actually are listening to our podcast. And so here's what I loved. And I want you to meet them at some point. I want everyone to hear from them because of what she said to me that stood out. She said, in 19 years of marriage, this guy has been an introvert his whole life and has never reached out to anyone but me when we got married. And in 19 years, you're the first person he reached out to because of what he's learned. And he knew he had to take a chance. And so he's playing in his head going, I saw your Facebook page and it said you're a coach, you're a pastor, you have your own business. And I'm like, I got to edit that stuff because it sounds like I'm busy. But he said,
you just said you were busy. You are busy.
I know, but he said, I just didn't think that I could be in that inner circle. And so I just wanted to take a chance. And what that taught me was I never know who's on the other side listening and what they've learned. But after an hour and a half, I'm going, it wasn't coaching, it was just getting to know each other's stories. I was going, I wish I recorded that, because that is what Made for More is all about. He had taken a chance to learn something and it's changed his life. And I'm going, that's awesome. What it did for us. I mean, that's why we exist.
That is awesome.
I'm not going to say their names yet, just because we're going to interview them hopefully someday. They're sharing the podcast like crazy with people, which is cool. And so, yeah. And, I heard from Jaden brought up a good point. She said, I've been listening to your podcast on your website. So, guys, let me clear up some things. You don't have to go to our website to listen. Go to iTunes and type in Made for More. And it's MADE, the number 4, more. And then it pulls up like Made for More. And then it says Motivate, Inspire, Encourage. That's it. You can subscribe to that. I think what it does when you listen on Safari, it times out or something. So make sure you use us on Spotify, Apple Music. You can go to, I think we're on a few other platforms. But if you're on iTunes, we would love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. That kind of helps us. You got anything else? No. 25 episodes down.
I'm excited.
It's pretty cool. And we, just to hear questions that they ask, and I'm going, people want to know about Made for More. That's cool.
Well, I love that he took a chance and reached out to you, and I love that you said yes.
Yeah, same here. And I had no expectation. But what I told him before we got off the phone, and his wife, was, you guys have no idea what it does for me. And he's like, whatever. I'm like, no, seriously, this does more for me than it does for you. And they're like, no way. So yeah, it's interesting. And then here's the other thing that I gotta shut up about this, but I get all happy about this because Jaden goes, hey, she said, I'm over here celebrating. You guys just passed 1,000 downloads. I'm like, you are so far behind. We're at 2272. I'm just looking at it, but that's why I'm like, people that are listening in order. It's so cool because again, we have every month we've had over 20 people listen to the first podcast, which means we got new people following. So it's legit. I love analytics, but again, we're just going to continue to do this. Anything else?
That's it. Wrap it up.
You guys got anything? Did I miss up anything, Tyler?
I don't think so.
I laugh because anytime Tyler's here, he likes to.
Oh, as soon as we turn the microphones off, he'll tell us what we did
Remember
wrong.
the critical thinker and the
That's
criticism?
not bad. That's not a bad thing, Tyler.
Tyler's the criticism in my
No,
life. He has a list right now.
he just has a different
I'm just
I'm
kidding.
gonna
mind.
start working on my British accent so I can be like Simon or something.
Yes. Tyler's a good guy. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think that's it. So we're going to close with this. Remember, hey, we just put this out on one of our images on Instagram so you can share it. It says this, and then we close with it every week. Remember that you exist for more. You're here to offer more. Don't ever give it up. Every single one of us is made for more. We'll see you guys later.
Have a good week.
That's a little long. 54.
Well done, guys.
Man. Yeah, I wish I would have recorded that interview, dude. Or not, it wasn't an interview. He didn't even know. He goes, there's no agenda. You can turn it. Oh. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Did you already stop it? Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see y'all.